More God, not less. That is the answer to the exam today. We're going to get into it. More God, not less. This is The Ordinary American. I'm your host, Paul Sarkis. After what went on at the Hinckley Hilton on Saturday night, we all got to do a lot more work on making America great again. On Sunday, yesterday, I put out a short, not the 15-minute version, it was a little longer than that, but I tried to put out a piece of content that would seriously contrast and pull away from the awfulness of Saturday. So the title was America's Winning and Trump, it's his plan. I wanted to show the great things that were coming. That ties directly into what the president said, which was both dark humor and crazy observant. He said that they don't try to kill people who aren't effective. So he's kind of honored. Yeah, he should be. They're trying. I believe that was the 5th assassination attempt, not the 3rd. Okay? None of them have obviously been successful, thank goodness. But we're going to get into the why. But the end of the story today is that more God, not less. Now, let's start off. The founding fathers gave us a system of government. They told us that that system of government was suited for religious and moral people. You've heard me say this before. It's important to repeat it. They were Christian men, largely Protestants. There was one Catholic who signed the Declaration of Independence. They believed in the Judeo-Christian values and principles of the Bible. And they knew that in order to have a civil society, you had to be essentially somebody who believed in the Bible, because that gave you a pathway to better decisions. It doesn't mean that if you're religious, you'll always make good decisions. It does not mean that. We're not dealing with always and nevers. We're dealing with trying to get an edge over human nature. It's like if you listen to gamblers or even the quant hedge fund guys, they're looking for an edge. They're not looking for 90% of the time to win. They're looking for 51% of the time or 50.1% of the time, but to do it over and over and over again. The founding fathers, even though they didn't put it that way, they were looking for the same edge. They knew the heart of man, and they knew that we were sinners because they were Christians. And they knew that if society didn't have religion and morals, civil society would break down. We are seeing that now. Why? Partly because if you have the values of the Bible in you and you believe in them, then you are less likely to get pulled astray by your big feelings. For example, this is so unfair. Okay, there's a lot of unfairness. Do I go kill people over it? No. But when you have an absence of religion and an absence of real morality based in Judeo-Christian principles, you allow that anger around the unfairness that you see, real or perceived, to get the best of you. And then you're willing to go do things, and you have no sort of adult God supervision in the room in your head. This is what's going on the left. So that's sort of the end of the story. I want to go back. I want to contrast today with the 1980s. We were coming out of the Carter years, and then it was the Reagan years, essentially 80 to 88, but it was 81 to 89. And I wanted to just show a couple of things. This is the electoral map. Let me see if I can pull this up. This is the electoral map for Nixon's first race, which he won. Let me see if I can get this up there. There it is. Okay. Now look at that. That's 1968. We were coming off of Lyndon Baines Johnson, one of the most corrupt, racist presidents of all time. He really rivaled Woodrow Wilson in the racism category. Okay? And you can see that it was an overwhelming win. Kennedy had been assassinated in 63. This is in 68. And you can see how overwhelming it was. Okay, why did I put that in there? Because I wanted to show you also what happened in 72. This is 72. Nixon won a second term. Look at that. Okay, that is not a divided country. That is not. That is about as big a political mandate as you can get. Okay? Then, unfortunately, the establishment got their hooks into Nixon because he wasn't one of them. Okay? Then I want to jump to, what year is this? This is 1980. So unfortunately, we put in Carter as kind of a reaction to what was perceived as illegal activities by Nixon. I'm not going to get into the whole Nixon thing, but the establishment hated him and wanted him gone. So this is 1980. Again, not a close call. Not a close call at all. Okay? Then I want to show you 84 because he does it. Reagan increases, if you could believe it, from that map. Okay, look at that. Okay, so I'm showing you that to say we were not a divided country. There were still lefty Democrats, but leftism hadn't sunk its teeth in the way it had now. We sort of had some blue dog Democrat type stuff, and we had maps like this. Now, because I'm a product of the 80s, I love music, and there was a great Charlie Daniels Band song from the 1980s, which I want to play just one verse of here, because it sort of deals with the difference between then and now. Okay, the second verse of this song, In America, it was basically saying, now that we're back on track, that map showed you that most Americans were thrilled with Reagan. We were great. We were going in the right direction. Charlie Daniels wrote a song that sort of said, now that we're back on track, here's what was going on. And I want to play this second verse. Oh, that's not the right one. Hold on. I'm going to come to that. I want to play the second verse of this song so you can hear the contrast between today and then. All right. Hold on. There it is. Here we go. From the sound of Long Island, out of San Francisco Bay, and everything that's in between them is our home. Now we may have done just a little bit fighting amongst ourselves, but you outside people just best leave us alone. Cause we'll all stick together, and you take that to the bank. As the cowboys and the hippies, and the rebels and the Yanks. You just go and lay your hand on the Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I think you're gonna finally understand. Okay, you hear that? We may have done a little fighting amongst ourselves, he says, but he says, you know what? We're still Americans. So the hippies, the Yanks, the guys from the South, wherever, we're still Americans, and we're a tight-knit group. So you outsiders, leftists, you better believe that. We don't have that now. Why don't we have that now? This country is not a divided country. It's not a 50-50 country. It's about 80-20. But the problem for the leftists, or the problem for us, is that the leftists learn from history. When you are that small a minority in reality, you have to lie, cheat, and steal and get violent to change the program. Because you could see from those maps, nobody really cared. Even now, nobody anymore believes that the 2020 election was legitimate. Joe Biden didn't get 81 million votes. Okay? Trump won 3 elections. That means Americans voted the same guy in 3 times despite the lying, the cheating, the stealing, and the violence. We are not a divided country. But the left knows that in order to make their point, they have to get violent. So we get what we got on Saturday night. You can just look on your own. So many people talking about violence and how it would have been great if Trump was killed. It's disgusting. Right before I came on, I checked Truth Social. Trump lambasted Jimmy Kimmel, which he should have. Okay, because Jimmy Kimmel had said something on Friday night at a show about Melania looking like an expectant widow. Okay, disgusting. But they need violence. Why do they need violence? They need violence because nobody likes their ideas. How can I say that? I can just look at California, New York, Massachusetts, Illinois. Why are people leaving the states that are totally controlled by Democrats? If their ideas worked, people would go to them. We don't need a triple blind study. We already did it. If the leftist Democrat policies worked, people would be going to those states. They wouldn't be leaving them. The latest of this, I'm not going to be able to pull it up, but I'll just tell you about it because it's been written a lot about. The billionaires tax in California, which the Democrats tell you is just for billionaires, and it's only a one-time thing, and it will just take a little bit of their money, and it's no big deal. Total lies. Total lies. There's a clause in there on page 36 or something of the bill. It's always near the end because they figure you get tired, you won't read the whole thing. That says that if they go back and get 2/3 of the legislature, they can just change it and tax anybody all of that tax. They can go to the middle class or the lower class. You might say, well, 2/3, that's a big hurdle. No, it's not. Not in a state that has total control, single party. The Democrats already have more than 2/3 control in both the House and the Senate in California. And yes, I know it's not called the House in California, but you get the point. So the left can't get their policies passed. I did a show on Friday, which was all about what if the left didn't exist? What if there were legitimate elections? What if they weren't stealing our money? We would be living in a very different country with a lot more peace and a lot less suffering. We got this 20% of the people who, of the 20%, there's really 10% who are true believers. And they're the ones causing all the harm. There's another 10% that are just, I don't know, too brainwashed, too weak, too lazy to do the work to understand what's really going on. But there's 70% that are coming around. You can look at a guy like Bill Maher, never going to vote Republican, but even he sees what's going on. He and I won't agree on a lot of things, but even he sees what's going on. Okay? So I want to switch gears here, and I want to go to an article. There's a professor named Jonathan Turley. I've mentioned him, I think, a bunch of times here. Okay, he wrote a great article. I highly recommend you go read it. By the way, if you go to the Ord American, we put pretty much everything that we touch on in the thread there. It's kind of like the show notes. And you can email us at theordinaryamerican and ask us questions, ask us to go into things, give us your comments. Please subscribe, and follow. I always forget to say that, but it super helps with the algorithm. All right, so I want to put this up here, and then I want to read it, a little bit of it. Let's see. Okay, Jonathan Turley is basically saying the moral malaise, the New York Times makes the case for micro-looting to murder. So he's talking about a podcast that had 3 people on it. Hassan Piker, that complete mutt we talked about last week, who openly calls for the murder of his political enemies all the time, or people he just sees things different from. Okay? The New York Times culture editor, Nadja Spiegelman, and then there was a writer named Gia, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, Tolentino. Okay? And this is a quote from Spiegelman, I think. It is so hard to live ethically in an unethical society. She is dyslexic in the brain or in the heart. She's saying that Trump and the 77 million people who elected him 3 times to get 2 terms and were not violent. January 6th was not any kind of whatever they described it as. It was an op that we're going to find out the SPLC and others had something to do with. We already know Epps and everything else. I'm not going to get into it. Okay, but the 77 million didn't get violent. We didn't do the Summer of Love, $3 billion of damage to properties and 30 murders. We didn't do that. After the first Trump inauguration, we didn't try to burn down DC. Okay, the left believes in violence because they can't get their word across because they have to lie about everything. So they create this stuff. This article you should read because this explains what's going on from a moral perspective. These people are seriously broken. They think they're the ones that have a right to do crazy things like violence. Hassan Piker calls for it all the time. I want to go down here. There was something else if I can find it. I might not be able to. Okay. Yet the feeling of anger and moral justification does not make an act moral. It is the morality of mayhem, a spreading decay within our society. History has shown us how democracies can become mobocracies. This gets back to what I said at the beginning. The reason the founding fathers knew that a religious and moral society had the best chance of a civil, peaceful society is because these people think that their anger and their belief in unfairness, and then they want to wrap themselves in the cloak of righteousness, like I'm looking out for the little guy and they're downtrodden. No, that's not true. I'm looking out for the person who was the victim of racism. As we saw from the SPLC, there's no meaningful racism in the country. That's all manufactured. These people, these leftists, get caught up in their feelings. And then they believe, because they get involved in their resentments and their anger, and they have no path out. Why? Because they don't have forgiveness, and they don't have the sense that most Christians have, which is that life is hard, and it kind of sucks, and it's suffering a lot. But it's okay, because God's here with me. They don't have that. So when they get into their frustration and their anger and their resentments and their hatred, and then they think, oh, if I could just stop that person, everything would be okay. Have these people played out what happens if they succeed at killing Trump? I don't think it's going to go the way they think it's going to go. I think they think it just becomes utopia. Again, I'm going to go back and say, if leftism could deliver utopia, California, New York, Massachusetts, Illinois, North Korea, Vietnam, Russia, China, Venezuela, Iran, somebody would have delivered it by now, guys. Okay? It doesn't work. We are not a 50-50 country. The Judeo-Christian values of the Bible have an understanding that life is hard and feelings aren't supposed to guide me. My belief in God. And what does he tell me? He tells me, forgive my brother 77 times, not 7 times. That revenge is his. Okay? That if I even think bad things, I'm not going to get into the details of that, but that's sin. But that I'm forgivable if I have sin. That I can do penance. That I can resurrect myself. When you don't have those things, you go into the violence. So that is my attempt today to sort of dissect, without getting into the specifics of Saturday, what's been going on. You could couple this episode with yesterday's episode about the Trump plan, and it would not be a waste of your time. Trump, as he said to that mutt, Norah O'Donnell, when she read the manifesto from this buffoon, saying, I can't live with this guy being a rapist and a whatever, and a pedophile. None of that's true. But if you believe that, and you don't have a valve, you don't have forgiveness, you don't have an understanding that life is hard and it's not fair. If you don't have any of those things, you can go to violence, which is what these people are doing. I highly recommend reading this article. I didn't mean to leave it up for so long. Jonathan Turley, really, really smart. Okay, so I want to get to a few other things because there's some other things going on that maybe will lighten things up a little bit. The president is doing fine. Nobody got hurt, thank goodness. And now, the president's back at it. By the way, I think it was under 15 minutes from the actual, incident, the shooting, that he was truth socialing what was going on, and that he was looking to get the event to go back on and keep it going. There's no one like him. You don't have to like him like I like him, But there is no one like him, and he is unbelievably productive. He is making America great, America first, and he is also making the world a better place. Not only does he send out that tweet or Truth Social, he Truth Socials a few minutes later and says, oh, they say we can't have it, but we're going to do it again. There's no president that I've ever seen that's been this sort of transparent. And then what does he do? He has a press conference where he talks about it. Then what does he do? He goes on with somebody, Norah O'Donnell on CBS, who he knew was going to be the way she was. And I voted for Trump to do exactly what he did. Called her out. I wish I had the video up. I don't. You can look that up. Okay? So I want to get into a few other things, but fifth attempt, I think, that we know of. Okay? He's right. He's being extremely effective. Okay? Extremely effective. And that's why this is going on. Okay. We're going to do a quick sort of, it's not really that much of a detour, but we're going to show a graph here that shows political violence. Okay, look at this. Are you kidding me? The more educated people are, the more likely, if you're protesting something unjust, see that? Their vision of unjust. It is reasonable to damage property. If they think something's unjust, 36% graduate or professional say yes. Unbelievable. And as you go down the line, not completely in a linear, but you get less. Look at this one. Violence is often necessary to create social change. 40% graduate. So the people who tell us they're super smart, okay? They're the ones who are telling me and you that violence is okay. Why? Because of what I said before. When you have to cheat, lie, and steal to be relevant, the only thing you have left is violence. You can't make an argument that works. Okay, I wanted to show that. Now, there's a couple of other things I said to you the other day, I finally found something that I disagreed with Trump on. And I was kind of interested because I don't disagree with him on a lot. I am not burdened by having to say, hey, you know, Trump really sucks or something. No, I don't think he does. I think he's great. I think he is doing great things for America. He is not any of the negative things people say about him. If there was evidence that he was doing all those things, we would have found it by now. All right, so there's the Spirit Airlines issue. Trump says we might have to, you know, bail them out or do something, invest in them. I am generally not a fan of government doing that. So I found something I just sort of disagreed on with him. But then when I heard the full explanation, which I want you to hear, I think I've got this teed up. You can sort of hear how he thinks. Let me see if this works. Are we on? Yeah, okay, hold on. Boom.
That proposition.
I just heard it 2 days ago, and I know them both very well. I don't like it. No, I don't mind mergers. I think I'd love somebody to buy Spirit, as an example. You know, Spirit's in trouble. And I'd love somebody to buy Spirit. It's 14,000 jobs. And maybe the federal government should help that one out. You know, I tell my people, but with American, it's doing fine. And United's doing very well. I know the United people, they're doing very well. I don't like having them merge. It's just like all of these aerospace defense companies and aerospace companies. We used to have hundreds of them, and now we have like a very small number. And you get one bid, and it makes them lazy.
All right. You hear that? So that is Trump. I disagree with him. I'm not convinced we should be making a taxpayer investment in Spirit. But go back to the history of Spirit. Spirit was not doing well. They're a discount airline. In each market that they go into with their fares, the fares drop 10%. That's good for the rest of us. But they couldn't make a go of it. So the Austrian economist in me says, then that's that. Maybe that's not where the market is. But JetBlue said, I want to buy them. The Biden administration said no. Why? Because of what I just told you about those fares going down. Who had the ear of the Biden administration? The big companies, probably Delta, United, and American. They don't want to face competition to bring prices down. So they use the political process, rent seeking, to squash it. Now those 14,000 jobs are at stake. I don't like that. Trump says, yeah, now we got United and American looking to merge. Guaranteed that United and American were talking about this back during the Biden administration. And they didn't want the JetBlue and Spirit to go through because they're worried about competition. A real free market, you don't get those kinds of political games. And Trump recognizes it. You hear what he said? I don't want strong companies to merge, to crowd out the competitors who are coming up. We want a bunch of companies coming up and being able to compete in this market. That's better for ordinary Americans. So while I disagree with him on investing in Spirit Airlines at the moment, you heard him say he's trying to tell his people. I hear there's a conflict there. But he is saying, I recognize what's going on. And even in the aerospace industry, why do they all get together? So they didn't have to bid against each other. Why? Because the bids made the price go up. That's better for taxpayers. They wanted the price to come down. Now, instead of 100 companies, I don't know what the real number is, there's 5. Okay? And it gets lazy, as he said. And he would go on, I think, to say that you don't get as good a product. Okay, so I wanted to play that just so that you could get a sort of an intro into his mind. Okay. The other day, I talked about, yesterday, I believe it was, with the Plan for America. I talked about Promethean action. Unbelievable. Now, what I want to do is I want to, I got to get this open. Here we go. I want to, is that up? Nope, here we go. All right, this is from the video that I played yesterday. Let me see if I can make that lighter. I just wanted to show some of the unbelievable things that are going on in the manufacturing industrial side of the economy. The US is now third in steel production around the world. We haven't been third since, I believe, 1999. Think about how long that is. And just like drill, baby, drill, when Trump said we're going to become energy self-sufficient, and everybody said, that's not, it's going to take decades, it takes years. He did it in like a year and a half. People said you couldn't get manufacturing going quickly enough. We're already third producer in the world. We're producing more steel than Japan now for the first time in 27 years. Then we look, we've got these first in 50 years, a new smelter in Oklahoma. We've got, this comes up a lot. Taiwan Semiconductor is investing something like 60-something billion dollars in an Arizona facility. Chips. Remember the part of the plan? You can look at yesterday's video. Trump knows we need to make here everything we can, but certainly the most important things we need: medicines, defense, technology, etc., rare earth minerals. He's getting other countries, Taiwan, who's friendly to us, to make the investment, and we're making it here. Okay, first time in 50 years, we've got an excavator being done in North Carolina, and there's a whole bunch of others here. So I wanted to sort of show you that, to show you what's really going on. The Trump plan is working, and we have a lot of stuff going on positive. Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit to Bitcoin freedom money. We've talked a little bit about spirituality. We haven't done health, but this is financial health. I talk quite a lot about Bitcoin because I believe it's freedom money, and it's going to be critical to maintaining freedom over the next 50 and 100 years for all of us. And you can go, I have a video, a 15-minute one, where I lay out the case for Bitcoin. I think I've also done some stuff on the digital credit instruments. This particular story I'm going to share is about the company Strive, the ticker symbol ASST. They have a digital credit instrument called SATA, SATA. SATA is interesting because it pays a 13% tax-deferred dividend. I'm not going to get into the mechanics of that today because I'm mindful of the clock, and it's not what today's about. What I am going to get into is I'm going to show a startup company called, hold on, I got to get it up here, called Artera. Where is it? Isn't that it? There it is. Okay, boom, boom. Okay, this is a company called Artera Pet Science. What it does is basically trying to take human research and apply it to our pets because they know we love our pets so much. You've heard me talk about Bruiser and Lola, the two quasi French bulldogs who are in here. We love them. So this company, you can go see them. They basically do, I think, chews for teeth for dogs and toothpaste. Okay, but why am I bringing it up? Not for that reason. They are putting a series of digital credit instruments. Look right in the middle of the screen where the cursor is. SATA pays 13%. STRC is from Strategy. I've mentioned that a lot. They pay 11.5%. And STRF, they are today, I believe they're trading at about $100. So I think it's about a 10% dividend. And so they're saying between 11 and 13% monthly yield. So they're sticking their cash in these digital credit instruments. And in the article I read, the CEO said that it extends their the life of their cash by at least a month or more before they have to raise. Now you might say that's not a lot. Well, it is to a startup. So I'm bringing that up to draw attention to Bitcoin and to the digital assets, the treasury companies, and the digital credit instruments, SATA and STRC, for everybody. Hopefully, you're not glazed over. I highly recommend this. Is, by the way, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I'm a guy with a great flag. I love my God, my family, and my country. I got my faded American flag on today. Okay, not financial advice, maybe financial entertainment, maybe just information. Go do your own research. But these are instruments that are providing a level of return. You have to believe in Bitcoin. But if you believe in Bitcoin, it provides you a level of return that we've never really seen. Okay, and it is the beginning on the financial side of taking the power essentially away from the globalists, the big banks, the City of London, all the people that extract wealth from ordinary Americans. So I highly recommend you think about it. And if you have a company, private company, doesn't matter what size, think of Artera Pet. They're sticking their cash to generate yield from their cash to help them out. Think about it. I've read about tons of stories about small sandwich shops who do this. Electrical engineering companies, construction companies. Stick your cash or consider sticking your cash in these digital credit instruments. It's freedom money. Again, not financial advice. Never. I highly recommend, by the way, Adam Livingston. You'll find him in my X thread, The Ordinary American, quite a lot. He writes a lot about and does videos about all things digital credit, digital assets, Bitcoin, the digital treasury companies, MSTR, ASST, and even MTPLF. Okay, I highly recommend you go watch that. All right, I think, wait, there was one other thing. Nope, that was it. Just really frustrating to see the left go so nuts. It is not okay. You may be frustrated. You may be angry. You may see unfairness in the world. You may think that you're righteous and that the other people who don't see it are not righteous. But the founding fathers knew you needed to have a religious and moral society and that our government was suited only for those people. So what we've been doing is we're trying to stuff secularism into something that needs religion and morality. And secularism leaves all of the big picture questions up to the individual. I'm frustrated. Therefore, if I go loot during a protest, it's okay. That's what that article was saying. Oh, I forgot to mention this. That woman, Gia, I forget what's her last name. She has an admission in there that she says that she feels justified in stealing from Whole Foods because they're a big sort of grocery retailer and they won't miss it. Okay, that is the mentality of somebody that doesn't have, I'll guess, I don't know, prove me wrong, I'd love to be proven wrong. She does not have a strong relationship with God, or maybe one at all. Again, it's not that a relationship with God makes you a good person. We're all sinners. We learn when we develop our relationship with God that A, there is somebody watching and somebody that's worth trying to please, and B, that we have paths out of our inevitable bad behavior because we're humans and we're sinners. Forgiveness, repentance, making amends, we have these ways, and God forgives us. And we agree to forgive other people. If this mutt, Hassan Piker, had forgiveness, he might not wind up on videos screaming for people that get killed. I don't know why. He's from Turkey, I think. He was born here. Sounds like, we'll get to that another day, but he's Turkish, Muslim. Sounds like they should revoke whatever citizenship or however he's here. He's basically promoting violence against most of America. All right, that's the show today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope it's been helpful. If it is, pass it on. Send it to people. Like, subscribe, follow, put in comments. What else? Anything to help the algorithm. We're going to be here tomorrow at 2 and to address all these issues again. I listened to my friend, who's not really my friend because I don't know him, Father Mike Schmitz, this morning. He told me he was praying for me. Today, because of what happened on Saturday night, I think we should all pray for each other. And we should all pray that we all have more tolerance, find forgiveness, and steer clear of violence.